Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox.
Ruth Palacios and her husband Arturo Zalo are trying to make ends meet, but they're barely getting by. They can no longer send money back to family in Mexico.
Yo vendo fruta, vendo elote, vendo esquite, y pues la venta está mal.
From the early days of the pandemic through the summer, the couple had steady work disinfecting the hospital rooms at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City.
A mí me tocó entrar en los cuartos de COVID, limpiar donde se había muerto una viejita, un viejito.
The couple worried about getting sick, but they thought it would be worth it, until they started getting their paychecks. They said they were paid a fraction of what they were owed, making their hourly pay often less than minimum wage.
Pues sí, una emoción porque nos quitaron el trabajo.
It's something that is absolutely prevalent, right, among workers, particularly low-wage workers.
The Center for Public Integrity found that companies have little incentive to follow the law. In 2019 alone, the U.S. Department of Labor cited 8,500 employers for stealing $287 million from workers. An analysis shows the department rarely penalizes repeat offenders, and companies are more prone to cheating employees of color and immigrant workers.
It doesn't matter that you don't have work authorization. If you perform the work, you need to be paid for it, right? And if you somehow qualify for overtime, for example, you need to be paid overtime.
And during the pandemic, workers have been more reluctant to come forward for fear of losing their jobs.
The Economic Policy Institute estimates that workers are losing $50 billion a year to wage theft, but most people haven't even heard of the problem. If it's hard to picture $50 billion, consider this. Yearly economic losses to auto theft, robbery, and burglary combined come to much less at $14 billion a year. Wage theft impacts more than just the workers who don't get their wages. It lowers wages in those workplaces and across entire industries. Plus, it robs communities of tax dollars. And even more broadly, it rewards cheating, undermines competition, and creates a race to the bottom that hurts us all.
And today we're going to be talking about Walmart. This is going to be a more personal video for me in some ways because this store triggers me into like a week of irrational anger for just stepping foot in the wrong one. And I want to try to justify why I feel that way. A lot of people who say that they don't like shopping at Walmart have some form of a classist take to be made. Either they make enough money to shop at Target, so why shop at Walmart? Or they don't like the people of Walmart, or, in other words, the people who couldn't afford to shop at Target. For me, it's about the feeling of a corporate police state that I get when I'm inside certain Walmarts. What is it that they are trying to protect themselves from? And why are they so afraid of it?
Now even the stakes are being locked up. Michael from Holt from Florida was stunned when he noticed that the meat at his local Walmart had been locked up in what appears to be a rather dramatic attempt to prevent people from stealing it.
Fun fact that I enjoy about Walmart is that the first cameras that were put in Walmarts were actually in the break rooms. Because while Walmart of today portrays itself as caring a whole lot about the issue of shoplifting, the first cameras that they employed in their stores were to spy on their own employees. Because their actual biggest fear is unionization.
I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, and but I'm following very closely what's happening with the unions. It used to be that the union wage was something that everybody would look up at and say, wow, you know, he's a union worker, he's making, you know, $18 or $20 an hour. And I realize that's what we're paying our people. We're not union. Yeah, I'm all for the unions doing whatever they can do, and you know, whether it be Walmart or Kmart or any store that's not going to pay a fair wage.
A labor union is
union.
The union.
Unions.
The unions.
To unions.
We don't think that a labor union is necessary here.
During my orientation, we went through everything and it all seemed pretty normal. And then at the very end, they showed us this anti-union propaganda video. They had these people that they said were Walmart employees, and they were talking all about how they felt valued by Walmart and how they felt like they didn't need unions.
We hope that you never have to deal with a union organizing drive in your facility.
And they just kind of kept reiterating over and over again, like,
Union.
We don't need a union. Walmart already he treats us pretty well.
We've got a great thing going here. Great benefits, job security, career opportunities.
I worked there for 8 months. I didn't have any benefits at all because they didn't give you benefits until you reached a year. And even then I had a lot of coworkers that were very purposefully kept under full-time hours so that they wouldn't get benefits.
Wal-Mart is very opposed to unions, one of the most if not the most aggressively anti-union company in the history of the United States. Just relentless in their search for union activity and try to squelch it, kill it. I had a worker that came to me with a piece of paper that someone had typed up on the computer in big bold black letters that said, "We need a union." No signatures, that's all it said. That in itself is enough to require me as a store manager to go and make a phone call. And the phone call comes to Bentonville. And that afternoon, I had to personally drive to the airport and pick up 3 guys that flew in a corporate jet.
Wal-Mart was very lucky to acquire 2 really good companies. But of course they were already unionized. Wal-Mart had no choice.
Because of the union, we get 36 days of vacation a year. Usually people take 3 weeks in the summer, 3 weeks in the spring. It depends. You can split your vacations into 2 or 3 times per year, or even more often if you prefer.
My job is very important, and if I have to fear for my job, it's a bad thing. A very bad thing. If Wal-Mart says we're all a big family and we have nothing to hide, everything's great, then I don't understand why the colleagues in America can't have a workers' council, can't establish a union. I can't understand that.
I'm a staunch American. I love America. It's the finest, freest country in the world. I'd still, at my age, I'd fight and die for this country. But it seems that there are things going on within this country, particularly from a business and economic standpoint, that aren't for the good of the people. I mean, the people in mass. A small segment of the population is doing well by what's happening, but the greater majority of the people are being made subservient.
And it's important to keep in mind that a lot of the other problems that we're going to talk about with Wal-Mart in this episode could be solved by a push for unionizing Walmarts. So you could say that this is kind of like the linchpin of the problems in this video. This also goes for the outward-facing cameras on top of the store as well, because those were meant not to curb or provide evidence in the many murders and crimes that were happening in their parking lots, but to see if people were trying to organize their coworkers on the way out the door. It's more of an afterthought that's been worked into a benefit that they have so many cameras in their stores, because this allows them to keep track of both employees and customers on an unprecedented scale. Even though it's become standard fare to put some cameras in most retail establishments, Walmart did it first, and Walmart does it more extensively. And when we're talking about security measures that Walmart has in place in its stores, security cameras are only the tip of the iceberg. One thing that Walmart would rather you not know about its stores is that it employs a number of loss prevention officers that you're never meant to see.
Yeah, now I've been doing this for 3 years. Caught almost like, I don't know, like 20,000. There's probably some people that are way better, but that's not about that. The whole point of this video is to talk about practical wisdom. And like, what do you do when you stop a mom and she just freaking loaded up on baby food and all types of crazy stuff, and you're just like, that's been to the benefit of her kids, and like, what do you do? And that's not a tough answer. I don't have a tough, I don't have to, I've had it so much that I'm like, okay, this lady's trying to provide for her family, or this man is trying to provide for his family. Everyone steals for different reasons, but you got to realize that the consequences of it are, they do outweigh. Now you might say, oh, okay, well, I don't care, man, I needed that, or Walmart makes plenty of money. That's the common saying. That's the common. That's the common saying. Anyway.
Unlike some stores that put a security guard or loss prevention officer at the front of their store, or on the way out, to intimidate you, Walmart actually goes the route of hiding them in plain clothes within their stores. This means that Walmart makes a practice of hiring community members to spy on their neighbors while they shop inside of their stores to better catch shoplifters off guard. And to me, this just seems like a really kind of absurd situation to put a person in, because, like, you wouldn't want to tell people what you do at Walmart, and I guess, like, if you work at Walmart, it's not like you're really itching to talk about your day at work. I mean, I guess you are, like, maybe more the interpersonal parts of it. I'm just saying, it's probably a pretty boring job regardless. But it's kind of weird to put people in this, like, undercover situation where they're hiding what they're doing for a living from their fellow community members. That's just kind of strange. And while this is insidious and creepy, and probably one of the things that most gets under my skin, it's not the one that triggers me the most, because I can ignore that. It's out of sight, out of mind. The part that really triggers me about Walmart is when they decide, why not do both, and put someone at the door checking receipts, and or one of those one-way gates that force you to walk by this person on your way out. Because seeing the security apparatus so apparent in the store reminds me of all the other things that they're doing to prevent this threat of shoplifting to the richest family in the world and the most profitable brick-and-mortar operation in the United States that shows no sign of slowing down to be concerned about shoplifting. I mean, first of all, what is that person doing there to begin with? It's their job to prevent theft within the store, so why are they doing it by checking people's receipts on their way out? Most stores don't do this, with the exception of some membership stores like Sam's Club or Costco. And why are we so willing to put up with this at Walmart? I've definitely heard reports of people saying that in different parts of the country this person tends to racially profile people on the way out, but usually what I experience is them holding up literally everyone on the way out so that there's no appearance of bias, and this honestly makes absolutely no sense, because most Walmart shoppers walking out the door have a cart full of items that have been bagged. So I don't know what you're really trying to accomplish looking at someone's receipt in most cases when most of those items are wrapped up in bags that you aren't really rifling through. Therefore, this doesn't seem like a good faith effort to actually stop shoplifters. Instead, it's pointless security theater that's just meant to intimidate customers. And when you compare them to all the other stores that don't make you do this, it's a major inconvenience, especially when a store like this gets busy. And they tend to. This is because of the other thing that pisses me off about Walmart. The crippling effect that it has on small businesses and local economies that sell specialized goods that also happen to be sold at Walmart.
Good evening, I'm Angela Taylor.
And I'm Craig Cannon. It's the first of its kind for one major grocery store chain. The first two Walmart Express stores are open in Gentry and Prairie Grove.
As 4029's Rob Sneed found out, some people are happy while others aren't so thrilled.
Walmart Express here in Prairie Grove is meant to save residents money, but small business owners like this one here say they're going to have to work extra hard to stay afloat. Frederick's One Stop in Prairie Grove has been here since the 1970s, and today it's still going strong.
We're kind of a hometown store, and I'm a local here and know everybody.
That's what owner Mitch Bartholomew is hoping will keep his customers coming despite Walmart Express opening just a few streets down.
Well, I'm always concerned, because, everybody trades with Walmart and they're competitive.
Aside from his business, Bartholomew is worried that the city he was born and raised in will lose its small town feel.
Walmart and the road bypass going around, yeah, I'm really concerned.
I've seen a lot of small communities crucified and forced out. Ma and pa operations that have been in business for years that are out on the street. They just had to close their doors just because of one entity. And it appears that that is their intent, to come into a community and force everybody out.
Walmart establishes what can be considered a horizontal monopoly, offering items all across the market at the lowest possible prices, undercutting as much of the local economy as possible, creating instability, job losses, and generally less profitable employment opportunities as a result, in addition to a lower supply of jobs, and any job losses being made up for by this sudden influx of Walmart jobs.
I didn't mind being there when they needed me. I didn't mind I knew that we were short-staffed. At that time, I didn't know it was a purposeful thing, that's their intention.
They had stacks like this of applications in the back. They just didn't hire them.
Right.
And then we're told, we don't know what to do. We don't have the people. We don't have this. We don't have that. And I really did at first. I felt bad for them. It was like, oh, okay. I'll give you an extra hour here. I'll come in early tomorrow. Okay, I won't take my day off.
Always having to stay late. You're supposed to work till 11, you're there till 12, 12:30.
Keep the number of associates from being full-time as many as you can. Keep them part-time as much as you can. And just keep reducing that expense.
The company doesn't allow the stores enough payroll dollars on their budget to get this job done, and the job is enormous. This company is raking in the dough in the sales. I mean, my store alone did over $100 million in sales the year that I left.
No matter what anybody says, they're at poverty level. I watched so many people go without lunch in the lounges that I stopped eating in the lounges because I just had my managers eating there because I just couldn't stand it.
It's also a noted trend that new Walmart locations are unprofitable for many years after opening their doors. And this is because, at least for that time, they're still competing against a healthy local economy. But because Walmart is such a big corporation with so many branches across the nation, they can afford for their new locations to lose money, because it can be subsidized by the profits of the other locations, while the local economy begins to hollow out and die. And around 5 years, a Walmart usually has come to a place where it has supplanted and dominated so much of the local economy that it can be profitable again. And this really is the magic behind what makes Walmart so crucial down the line in the economies that they inject themselves into, where they just grow in market share like a cancer. But the thing that really annoys me about all of this is having to face that person and having an interaction with a person who is working for poverty wages, someone who is de facto investigating me for shoplifting, is that the one thing that I really want to say to this person, which they may already be well aware of, is that if they really wanted to look for the biggest source of theft in their store, they should look in their manager's office. And they should look at their time cards. And they should really track the hours that they work as opposed to the hours they're being paid for. And they'll probably find a lot more theft that way than checking my receipt. And while this sounds all well and good in a YouTube video, it's a very different thing to berate and undermine a real-world worker in real time, even if the information that I'm giving them about the pointlessness of their career decision is correct. It is still very much impolite for me to do so. And every time I exit one of these Walmarts, I am put in that situation, and I hate them for it. What does it accomplish for me to tell them that the company that they work for has destroyed the local economy to the point where it has become one of the major employers, when they're well into this cycle and they realize that they're one of the only low-wage local employers left because they've destroyed the whole economy? But the problem is that they can't take a principled stand on this because they've got mouths to feed. And unless they move, which is not an easy task for a Walmart wage worker, there really is no competition. Over time, this sets up a sort of employment monopoly that helps people who ordinarily wouldn't settle for a job at a Walmart simply because it's the only game in town that's still hiring and still profitable. How do we solve these major sources of theft? Clearly putting someone at the door checking receipts, or putting cameras all over the building, or having citizens spy on fellow citizens like this is 1984 isn't working. Your employees are still being ripped off day after day. How do we solve this problem? Well, in my previous video, I suggested class action lawsuits.
And we end today's show looking at Walmart, the nation's largest retailer.
We know the shift to clean energy won't happen overnight. We got to make some tough choices along the way. And we know that if we do, it's going to save us ultimately money and create jobs over the long term. That's what Walmart understands, and Walmart's pretty good at counting its pennies.
That was President Obama at Wal-Mart in Mountain View, California, Friday, giving a speech promoting solar power and energy efficiency. Outside workers and union activists protested the president's visit to Wal-Mart. Well, Wal-Mart is back in the news this week. On Wednesday, workers at 3 California warehouses used by Wal-Mart agreed to settle a wage theft lawsuit by accepting a $21 million settlement. The workers had sued Wal-Mart and Schneider Logistics, an outside company that owned and ran the warehouses. Schneider will pay the entire settlement. The lawsuit alleged workers were often paid less than minimum wage with no required breaks or overtime compensation.
And that is one way of organizing and collectivizing a class interest. It would probably be far more effective to leverage Walmart's greater fear, that of unionization. If Walmart workers were to unionize their workplaces, they would have an outside force where instead of having to hire lawyers, they could just have a union interact with the company on their behalf. And through doing things like organizing strikes or many of the other tactics in the union toolbox, they might be able to stop the trend of wage theft from happening once and for all. Because for right now, the suits aren't working. I mean, it's worth noting that Walmart has paid settlements on wage theft in the past, but as it is with many of these white-collar crimes, the punishments do not match the profits. Therefore, it just makes good business sense to break the law.
Everyone steals for different reasons, but you got to realize that the consequences of it are...
I didn't have any benefits at all because they didn't give you benefits until you reached a year. And even then I had a lot of coworkers that were very purposefully kept under full-time hours so that they wouldn't get benefits.
They just wouldn't eat, and we weren't allowed to offer them any money. And there were people I see that didn't eat nothing. They'd take an hour lunch and just sit there.
So you just gotta think, use your brain. If you do this as your job or whatever it may be, use your brain, stop and think for a second.
Rip off as many of your employees as you can to keep profits high, and pay the fines when you get them, pay the class action lawsuits when they happen. You could argue that this is not a good way to do business, but Walmart remains one of the most profitable brick and mortar companies in the world, and they've actually started to gain a decent foothold online. Although in this format, Amazon has already beaten them to the punch by being the one online monopoly for low-cost shopping.
Craig, the grocery industry has always faced huge margin pressure, but it seemed like the saving grace might be that customers actually want to, feel the fruit that they're buying, pick up that bread as fresh as possible. Is that not what's happening?
You're right. And I think that there was a long time where it was considered safe from e-commerce. It was insulated from all that, and there was a lot of building. Obviously, the world changed last June where Amazon announced the deal to buy Whole Foods, and it's gotten off to somewhat of a slow start. Amazon has not come in there and changed things drastically, so we're still waiting to see what they're going to do, but you're already seeing those competitive pressures kind of showing up in the industry, and the first clear sign is some of these bankruptcies at the regional chains.
I gotta be honest, I've never shopped in those regional chains that you mentioned in your stories. Southeastern grocers buy those supermarket chains, and I guess I don't have a chance now because they're all going bankrupt.
That's right. And I mean, I think when the Amazon deal was announced, a lot of people that follow the industry said that's where you're going to see it. That's going to be the point of pressure that you immediately see is these weaker regional chains. They don't have the money to invest in upgrading the stores. A lot of the stores are old and outdated. They're not going to be able to sort of defend against Amazon, and they're not going to be able to defend against Walmart and Kroger because Walmart and Kroger have a lot of scale. They're investing to fight with Amazon. You've got Lidl and Aldi expanding, putting price pressure on. So this is all adding up to an incredibly competitive atmosphere in an industry that was already known for, being extremely tough.
But in an age where we talk more and more about why Amazon is bad, we should remember that Walmart, while a bit outdated and not able to affect the entire market quite as well as an online business that can ship to anywhere in the continental United States and many places in the world besides, we should at least remember that Amazon is walking very closely in Walmart's footsteps, and that the real innovation that Jeff Bezos had in the way that he moved his company forward was to take the model that's been so successful in disrupting and supplanting economies of brick and mortar strip malls by putting one storefront in their town, by putting a storefront in everyone's pocket to supplant the retail economy of the entire world. So, if there's purpose in showing concern for Bezos and Amazon's actions, there's still cause for concern with what Walmart is doing. Thanks for sticking around. I'm seeing one more video in this series, and that's about how increasingly our entire world, but really primarily for this video, mainly the promise of everything that has come of the so-called Web 3 is a grift. And I'm sick of grift culture. So, see you in the next one.
When Walmart first made the decision to come here, you could come to town on a Saturday evening and not find a parking place anywhere. I came to downtown Hearn on Saturday before Christmas, and there was 12 cars in downtown Hearn. I counted them, 12 cars in downtown Hearn. That is pathetic.
Walmart was a great thing for our community. It's really awakened the west side of our town.